Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here and joining us for the Ward 32. I'm going to call it more of a discussion than a debate, just based on the number of people we have in front of you. If we debated it, it would be mayhem in here. But, most importantly, sitting in front of you are 10 people who are vying to be the councillor for Ward 32. And thank you all for joining us and for running. It's a really big deal to run. We appreciate your time and effort that you put in and mounting the campaign. My name is Rob Brandonstein. I am going to try to moderate this evening with 10 people in front of us. It's going to be quite fun. 2 hours to go. But to me, I love this. I love that everybody's out here being part of this and involved in their community. I think City Hall is so vitally important to the city and what we do every day. They have their hands on so many things that affect us every day, from garbage to parks to who knows what. It's just the amazing things that City Council is able to do is just so wonderful. I'm glad you're all here to see this. The other thing, the mayoralty campaign gets a ton of attention, but the people vying for this position have the same weight at City Council as the mayor. They have one vote, so does the mayor. So we're glad you're all here to see these people, to evaluate what they have to say, and to vote, we hope. Tonight's debate is presented by Beach Metro News. I am the Vice President of Beach Metro News, so we're delighted to have you here, and Community Center 55. A couple things we want to get out of the way on housekeeping. If you happen to be tweeting, I hear that's a thing now, the hashtag that we're hoping you'll use is Ward32Debate. We will be compiling those, pushing them out, and we have been alerting people that that hashtag is going to be in use this evening, so hopefully people who couldn't make it here can join us via Twitter or however they like to find their news on the fly. Beach Metro News on the website will be compiling all those tweets so people can follow along at home as well. As you can see, we have 10 candidates. We have 2 hours, not a lot of time. I'm going to shut up pretty soon. But what we've asked is that everybody keep to the time limit. There's going to be a 60-second introduction from each one of these people. We have questions that we have been taking. We've been taking questions via Twitter, on the website, phoned in, and at the front today. We're not going to have questions from the audience during the debate or during the discussion. There's just too much going on. But we are still taking questions, so if something comes up, you can still submit questions. What else can we tell you? We are going to be hard on the time limits just because of the number of people there are. The one other wrinkle is that each of the candidates has been given a wild card. It's hard to rebut when there's 10 of them up here. So everybody has one wild card, one chance to throw the card and be heard and say, hang on, that was an attack on me, that wasn't fair, whatever, I want to respond to that. They have one. When they use it, I take it from them, so they can't try to use it again. They will have 60 seconds to close, and we have also asked that everybody keep it civil, that we want a good level of discourse. This is an important job that they're vying for. We want to be concerned about the job, not about any of the tomfoolery around it. We've seen a lot of tomfoolery at City Hall. We want to hear just from the candidates. Enough from me. Let's hear from the candidates. They have 60 seconds for an opening. We are going to start on the far side. Go ahead.
Testing. I'm Carmel Sutter. Fiscal conservative sounds so pragmatic. It's a belief in lower taxes and fewer services. So how's that working here? We've capped property taxes, and we've eliminated the vehicle tax, and turned down a fully funded rapid transit system. We've saved a little bit on government services, a bit cutting back the TTC, a tiny amount cutting nutrition programs for kids, and some pocket change for the homeless. So, are we better off? Well, we've waited forever for streetcars that don't have room, and we've got kids going to school hungry, and we don't have an LRT or a subway. Well, have we reduced the budget? No. Have we prepared for the future? Well, actually, we're going to pay higher costs down the road because of the savings we've made. I want someone on council who's going to say, this is stupidly short-sighted.
Thank you.
here. I love this community. I feel very strongly about it. I remember a strong sense of environmentalism in the neighborhood growing up. I don't feel we have that anymore. I'd like to reintroduce some more environmental concerns into the city of Toronto, as well as do this in a conservative manner so that we can, fiscally conservative manner, so that we can grow as a city. I think that this is our chance to really lead. I believe that a sustainable community is the next, high-speed internet community. If we don't address these issues now, we're going to be paying a lot more for it in the future. And I'd like to tackle this along with our transit and building a strong mixed-use community where we live, work, and play all in the same community. We have a lot of play and living here, but some of the jobs aren't quite there. So from me, that's what you can expect. More job creation. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brian Graff. 4 years ago, the candidates on the stage were saying they were fed up with the dysfunction at City Hall and calling for change. Have the last 4 years been any better? Candidates were complaining about antiquated transit, but is transit any better? 4 years ago, the candidates were talking about the lack of public consultation and the lack of respect for taxpayer dollars. Yet on things like Kew Gardens, decisions are being made before the community has any chance to say what we wanted. Did you know that the unemployment rate in this city is 10% and youth unemployment 20%? Probably not, because things like that, even simple things, don't get that much attention. People have followed the dysfunction at City Hall, but little attention has been paid to what our current councillor has done, or more often, not achieved. On planning, the vision we got is not the vision we asked for. I'm running because I think I can do a better job than the incumbent. Showing this to you is what I'm going to talk about my vision tonight, but it also means looking at the record to show where the current councillor has failed us. Thank you very much.
I feel like we're co-accused in a prisoner's box here. I want to enter a plea. My name's James Sears. I'm the only anti-communist person amongst the group up here today. Our police chief made $370,000 last year for violating people's rights at the G20. The head of the TTC made $300,000 a year, and poor people can't afford to ride the TTC. There are 8,000 people working for City Hall that make over $100,000 a year. 3,000 police, 2,200 teachers, and 1,400 TTC workers. And because of these fat cats, elderly people eat cat food because they can't afford to pay their rent, their property taxes, or their utilities. It's disgusting in a city this wealthy for our elderly, especially seniors, to be living in poverty like that. And I'm going to put a stop to it. I'm the only candidate on the stage that will not take the $105,000 councillor salary. I will work for free out of principle. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michael Connor. I'm running because I'm disappointed in our councillor. I'm about a city building, and I need your support to get that done. We need to re-energize the city after Ford. And my first program is a park and plug, electric cars. Park in the P lots for free. Encourage the environment, get back on the table as a city. I'll still be looking after the ward, and another program I have, second program is construction czar. Construction is a nightmare in this city, as you can tell. They do it willy-nilly, all over the place. I want crew. We say where the construction's going, it's all on computer. You'll all be able to see what's going on in your city, where the construction's going on, and what time. And I want to thank everyone for coming out.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Alan Burke, and I'm currently president of the East Beach Community Association. And I have worked in this community, and I volunteer on average 20 hours every month, and have done so for over 15 years. I can give you many examples of what I've done, but one of the reasons why I'm running, when I had serious issues this summer at Asperger's Bay at Woodbine Beach Park, I had a mugging, I had somebody get a second-degree burn because of illegal bonfires. I had over 25 cars broken into, and had no response from Councillor Mann's office. I sprung into action. What have I done in 2 months in August and September to deal with those problems? I put pressure on the police through the Police Services Board and the Chief of Police Office. Last week, 55 Division arrested somebody who had been breaking the cars down in Asperger's Bay. I got a fire permit issued from the East Command at Toronto Fire Service in 3 weeks, so we'll reactivate the fire pit at Asperger's Bay. Anyway, I ask you to consider me and look at my website and you'll understand I'm a person who knows how to get stuff done and makes a very positive impact in this community. And that's one of the reasons why I stand out from everybody else running here tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. My name is Eric DeBoer, and I've lived in the beaches for 10 years now, and I grew up in Scarborough. Currently, I own and drive a heavy truck, so I'm a small business of one. I'm solely responsible for customer service, operations, accounting, payroll, administration, and everyday labor. I'm running for council because I'm frustrated with Councillor McMahon and council's indecisiveness and inaction on matters such as transit, development, and congestion, just to name a few. I have many smart value for money solutions and policy-driven ideas, and I promise if elected, I will be decisive, take action, work hard, and represent you in the city with integrity. Thank you.
Good evening to residents and parishioners of St. John Baptist Norway Church. My name is Maria Malaya Francisco Reverata Garcia. I am an Asian. I have a 22 years degree in study. I have obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in Commerce, a Master of Business Administration CPA, and also a business degree. I am a certified management accountant. As an employee, I've worked here in Canada for about 2 years in banking and 18 years in banking outside Canada. So I've worked around 22 years expertise in banking and administration. As a volunteer also, I have served the community with the Toronto City Hall Volunteer Management Group and also health ambassador of the Judy'sGlobal.com. So I'd like to thank Beaches Metro newspaper for inviting me to participate in this event. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. As you all know, the last 4 years at City Hall have been a tough time, to say the least. There's been much acrimony, division, and scandal. But I'm proud to say that through it all, my commitment to this community, to bringing stability and mature debate, has remained unwavering. I'm a bridge builder by nature, and I work hard to achieve consensus with all of my colleagues, regardless of political stripes. Despite the three-ring circus, we have actually achieved a lot this term. Locally, we changed the official plan to ensure that irresponsible development no longer threatens Queen Street. We work together to beautify main streets and parks. As chair of the audit committee, I worked hard with the Auditor General and his team to save the city millions of tax dollars. I've proven to be a tireless advocate for my community, and I would be honored for your support one last time, October 27th. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Sandra Busson, and I grew up in this neighborhood as well. And I've raised my family and also work in this community. And over the years that I represented you, both as a school trustee and as the counselor, we achieved many things, including one of the major initiatives, which was to shut down the Ashbridges Bay sewage treatment plant incinerators. That's improved our health significantly. We also won a very important fight on the development front over Neville Park, which was a condo that was going to perch over the crest of our waterfront. And we were successful working together on that particular front. And I'm running because I am concerned that a number of developments have taken place over the last 4 years, and that our waterfront could once again be subject to development of the waterfront. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for getting us off to a great start. Nice to hear something about each one of you, and you all stayed to the time limit, which made my job easy, which I I think we'll segue off what Sandra talked about right there, which is development. A lot of the questions that came into us are about development. I'm going to read one of them, and we're going to start in the middle with Alan Burke, and we're going to work that way. So the question that came in, one of many, is density a bad thing? Is it to be restricted to only certain areas? How would you approach the need for density? Alan, if you could start with that. And your thoughts on density. Please grab a microphone.
I think density has to be appropriate to the situation, and particularly we have a sensitivity in this neighborhood of maintaining the streetscape on Queen Street. A couple of things one can do. First of all, we should designate our historic buildings as historic, like our fire hall. We lost at the OMB recently about the 2 properties that are being developed at Woodbine and Queen, and one of the reasons the OMB said they allowed those projects to go ahead, they said, I quote, if it was so important, why did the City of Toronto designate the fire hall as an historic structure? Currently, it does not have that designation. We can also look at giving HCD designation, heritage designations in certain areas. That's controversial, but I think we have to have managed development that's appropriate and that is suitable and doesn't overwhelm the beach and Queen Street. And given I don't have much more time, I'll wrap it up at that. Thank you.
I think it should have a moratorium on any condo projects for a while. There's too much density, especially down on Queen Street, and parking is a huge problem. There's nowhere to park. And we're gonna have to do something about that. I have an idea for that, but I'll bring that up later on. Thank you.
I have no issues with density along the main street, but in the residential neighborhoods, I have a problem with it. I also have a problem with Toronto being declared a sanctuary city when we have a high unemployment rate here. And that's a density issue, because if you don't have jobs to sustain the density, you don't want the density, because it just shoots the unemployment rate through the roof. So if the best jobs for your children right now are minimum wage jobs, and then we have a bunch of immigration coming in because it's a sanctuary city, then there won't even be minimum wage jobs. So density overall is a problem. And you have to think it through. It isn't just in specific areas. Overall, it's a problem in the city. It's very short-sighted to push density just because you want to collect property taxes. Thank you.
Density is a bad, is this on? Okay. Density is a bad thing if you don't have the infrastructure for it. Density is a bad thing if it means you're losing heritage. Density is a bad thing if you don't build the extra parks and other things to maintain current levels of services. Now, I have a degree in architecture, an MBA in real property. I'm for responsible development. But let's look at this. The GTA, you've got a green belt. You've got about 80 to 100,000 people moving into the whole GTA, not the city. Toronto's only supposed to get 20% of the growth. We're getting 40% of the growth. The 905 is not carrying its share. Within Toronto, there are lots of areas in the suburbs where the density is supposed to be going. Where the transit is going is where the density is supposed to be going. On Eglinton, on Finch, by York University, and all those places. It shouldn't be going into stable areas that don't need the development when there's so many places in the city where the development is needed and it's supposed to be going in the next few years. Thank you.
I don't think it's the density that's so much the concern as the lack of what comes with the density. We have a community that people have lived here a long time, worked hard to build up, and now we're having more development, more people come in, and what they're bringing into the community might not be adding to it. We have an excellent chance right now to capitalize on moving on-street parking, in behind these buildings, underground. We have a chance to bring in more sustainable features, have them hold stormwater, have them contribute to the community in beautification projects. We can have new stores. I mean, how many stores along all our Gerards, our Queen, have tiny storefronts, small hallways to go down. These are chances that we can start updating our community, but we have to do it and respect the heritage of the neighborhood and the community as a whole. Thank you.
We're really lucky that we live somewhere that people want to come to. We must make sure that we keep the mixed income nature of the ward. If it's only luxury condos coming in, displacing all the rental housing, then many of our friends, neighbors, seniors, families can't afford to live here anymore. Developers are going to build as much as they can get away with as little responsibility as they can possibly take, and we have to make them take responsibility. No councillor candidate should ever take a contribution from developers. I think that's a slippery slope ethically, a lot like the slippery slopes that developers love to build on.
Well, I think we have a very unique community here, and the official plan is one that's a general document. And it has led to some of the issues that have arisen over the last 4 years, such as the development site at the Shell's location. We do probably need a revisit of the official plan. When I was the councillor, I left the existing zoning on Queen Street for a reason, as did Councillor Paula Fletcher, in that it was the most restrictive. The mid-rise guidelines, which now are on Queen Street, do allow for greater density than what was there. And that is why we've begun to see the kinds of issues that we have along Queen Street. And again, heritage is a very important thing that will help quell the level of development in the community, and it needs to be activated again.
100,000 people come to Toronto every year, so density is coming, and we can't stop it. But what we can do is we can manage it properly. A year into the job, I commissioned a visioning study which resulted in the beach urban design guidelines, which have given Queen Street the strongest protection they've ever had, now that they are enshrined in the official plan. Should have been done years ago, it was not. I have also commissioned visioning studies for planning studies for the Danforth and the Queen Street in Leslieville. I've also voted 3 times in the last 4 years to remove Toronto from the OMB jurisdiction.
My opinion as to density is if we relate density to population. In Canada, we have about 33 million, and in Ward 32, we have about 55,000 residents here in Ward 32. Density will be an issue if the residence itself is not participating or is not actively involved in community projects, or is not paying taxes well, or does not anyway do things that would contribute to the improvement of the economy. So we as candidates here, we are promoting not only ourselves, but also encouraging people here to also participate the same as like ours with the Toronto People projects.
It's council's job to manage a responsible increase in density. Queen Street has poor transportation and a lack of parking, and it's not in keeping with the streetscape. I plan to institute new parameters on new builds south of Kingston Road, requiring private and independent entranceways to each unit. A split home, in other words. This will prevent common lobbies, hallways, and big box condos. I hope to push development toward Main and Gerrard, where we have both GO and TTC stations and has been neglected for years. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. We have our first wild card. Mr. Graff, I'm taking your wild card from you. Thank you.
Okay, what Councilor McMahon told you, I'm going to take issue with. First off, she says 100,000 per year. It's not that. The whole province only grew by 120,000. Toronto grew by 28,000 people last year. The city, 28,000, which is about 14,000 units. We're only supposed to be growing by about 16,000. When she talks about the Queen Street guidelines, what we had from 1988 to 2002 said 2 times density, 12 meters, about 3.5 stories height limit. What she has says, we'll let you have 6 stories, except the problem is, what's a story? You can add in mezzanines. The Walking on a Cloud building was 3 stories. You look at it, it's 6. There's a new condo proposed for Main and Kingston Road. It's 6 stories, well, there's a 7th story wedged in there a little bit. because a story could be 3 meters, it can be 6 meters. There's no telling what that means. What she's done is not protecting Queen Street, and you can tell me over the next 3 years, 4 years, whatever, we'll start seeing more developments. She'll say that there have been no developments coming in. It's like closing the barn door after the horses have left. All of the easy sites are being developed, but down the road, the Value Mart and other sites are going to be developed, and believe me, you're going to get much bigger buildings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice to see the first wild card come out early. Appreciate it. Hang on, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to try not to challenge from the audience. We're going to try to let the candidates do the talking. And the next thing we're going to talk about is the TTC. Here is the question. I cannot remember the last time my commute from here to downtown was problem-free on the TTC. If elected, what do you intend to do about this? Sandra, we're going to start with you, and we're going to work our way down this way.
Yes, well, the Queen Street car is a problem because it is the longest line actually in the country. It runs from Binghamton all the way to Etobicoke. But when I was a councillor, we did have a special program to move the cars through and stop the short turns. That included extra staffing, of course, that people had to be along the route in order to push the cars through. That has now been rescinded, and we're back to where we were before. And that is one of the solutions that was put in place, and it works. And through budget cuts, it was taken away. Queen and King carry more people than the entire GO system in one day. And we have to be looking at expanding the LRT that will be coming along the waterfront to join up with Queen or King to take the pressure off of Queen Street. That's one of the solutions. And I always hear about the streetcars. The streetcars actually can change the lights, so that initiative is already underway, in play.
Yes, the 501 streetcar and the Kingston Road streetcar are too slow. There are things that we're working on. We've just approved at council for TTC to get GPSs in the buses, in the streetcars, to ensure that the bunching doesn't happen. We need to work still harder on their short turns. There are too many short turns. There needs to be more express buses. Express buses not enough. And we also are working, we just asked council, passed at council, to synchronize the traffic lights to streamline downtown. We also need to look at the parking restrictions on Queen Street. We need to get people out of their cars onto transit. But until we make it more convenient, more accessible, it's not going to happen. Working towards that.
Ward 32 is visibly full of trains around the city. Here in Ward 32 we have GO trains, we have subway trains, we have streetcars and major roads in this area. So my proposal for 2015 is to enforce strict traffic enforcement rules and guidelines, and then also to lessen the service routes in Queen Street, which is a very full traffic area, and also especially during rush hours. So my proposal is to promote service cars also, by residents to buy them expensive cars also, since most of the cars are just parked around their residences.
I want to turn Queen and King into one-way streets through the city's core between the DVP and Roncesvalles. So Queen would run eastbound and King would run westbound. Richmond and Adelaide are already one-ways, and these streets are all 4 minutes apart walking. This would cost one-way signs, paint, bolt-down curbs or bollards for protected bike lanes, so minimal construction. So there would be bike lanes on the right of these streets, and streetcars on existing streetcar tracks, and this would allow 2 lanes for cars to pass to stop streetcars. This is a smart value for money solution that helps all modes of transportation. Fewer idling cars means less pollution, and this can be implemented before the Pan Am Games. And if we keep the that will prevent the huge gaps in service that we see in our ward on Queen Street. Thank you.
Well, there's a couple of things we can do right now. First of all, we have to enforce our rush hour prohibitions and get serious. How many times have you gone westbound on Queen Street heading towards Woodbine and see delivery vehicles parked in the curb lane? We need to put loading zones in, and we need to get dead serious about enforcing those rush hour prohibitions. Example, today I was heading out to Scarborough to one of my suppliers, and some guy doing work for Toronto Water who's supposed to have the curb lane at Kingston Road open in St. Clair by 4 o'clock. It's still got it blocked off. I pull over my car and talk to the guy. This is now 4:20 in the afternoon. Say, hey, you're supposed to have this lane open now. Your contract with Toronto Water says. I don't think if I had to stop, it would have probably been 4:45 before they reopened that lane. It took me 10 minutes to get through the intersection of St. Clair East and Kingston Road because some guys for Toronto Water didn't follow the protocols they're supposed to follow. We need to get serious. We also need to look at extending our rush hour prohibitions, and also people who stop for coffee in the morning, pull over on the side street, don't park on Queen. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Alan Burke on the parking. We have to enforce parking. And we have to restrict the left turns on streetcar lines. It allows the streetcar to go straight through instead of having to wait for the person to turn left. And that's about it. Thanks.
I've been to Eric DeBoer's website. I love his website. He's got drawings of his entire master plan of how to change traffic along Queen and King Street. I couldn't have done it better myself. I suggest you go to Eric's website. Is it Eric DeBoer or DeBoer.ca? You can check that out. I have an issue with the cost of the TTC with, as I said, 1,400 members of the TTC earning over 100K. Those aren't base salaries. These people are earning that in overtime because of mismanagement. I think if we manage the TTC better, we save some of that overtime money, we have money to spend on TTC infrastructure. So it's all down to money. I mean, it sounds nice, all these wonderful relief lines and buses and subways, but if the money isn't there, they're just going to raise property taxes. So we need to do a better job of managing the TTC. Thank you.
Well, for me the question is, why hasn't this been solved in the last 4 years? Councillor McMahon ran last year talking about antiquated transit. What has she done? Why is she only talking about this and the solutions now? There are certain things we can do. The easiest thing is to buy more buses for across the city, but we can use those on the streetcar lines. If ever there's a blockage, you need buses. They're flexible, they're cheap, $700,000 a piece, and you don't have to wait 20 or 30 years for them. In terms of improving the streetcar service in the long term, we're going to have fewer streetcars with bigger ones. So once they get rid of the old streetcars, the service could get worse. She's talking about a 10-minute guarantee. I don't know how she's going to do that with fewer streetcars. The other thing too is downtown we can do things like, instead of what Eric is proposing, which would take away one streetcar line on King and one on Queen, leave those streets alone, add in a new streetcar one way on Richmond, another one way on Adelaide, and then you can go around, have streetcars going around blockages and not have to be stuck in traffic because there's nowhere they can go. Thank you.
I think we all have our transit dreams. I stand there waiting for the Queen streetcar often and think, wouldn't it be so nice if there was a tunnel underneath, downtown Queen, 5 kilometers, just whip down there, wouldn't sit at the light, go and have to pick up people. It would be wonderful, right? We could have King Street then, free for transit, and maybe we could pay for this by having courier services pay to use King Street as well. But this isn't happening, right? These are things that we all wish. We all want these things to happen. But what we need to happen is I could put this and I could say it, and then it's going to get shut down. We've seen so much inaction about Scarborough, right? The subway line, the LRT. What we need to do is consolidate the TTC, the city planning, and transportation services so that the 3 entities that really pick what's going on in the city can make plans based on priority and data, stats, not just, wishful thinking. Thank you.
We've been stuck with too little money for transit ever since amalgamation. We can decide decide to make transit our priority, whatever the province does or doesn't do. Other cities like Los Angeles and Denver have united left-wing, right-wing, business, communists, Marxists, everybody, because they realized that making transit work in their city was going to work for everybody. I would suggest a congestion tax for Toronto. A lot of people from the 416 drive into downtown, but so do a lot from the 905. Dedicate that for transit. To make this happen, we have to lobby the province, like mad, to reopen the City of Toronto Act to give us those powers. So let's do this and get the city moving.
Thank you very much. We are going to move from the ground to the air. We've had a number of questions about Billy Bishop Airport. I'll read just one of them. The number of flights from Billy Bishop Airport has increased markedly since August. How will you address this issue that has such an impact on city life? Harris, because people were talking so nicely about your website, you can go first, and we're going to move to my right.
Okay, well, the objections to the airport, for example, that there is an agreement, so what there's an agreement, agreements are reviewed all the time. Though I don't see the importance of expanding the airport immediately, so I think that it's clearly up to the people of Toronto to decide this. I think a referendum should be held. Council cannot be trusted because they're too often persuaded by a vocal minority, so hold a referendum to decide what to do with the island airport. Thank you.
I am in favor with the expansion at Billy Bishop Airport, considering that there are small aircrafts, small airlines, and carriers that needed another area other than the Pearson International Airport. So there are small carriers like, although FedEx is a big carrier, it needed an extra space, an extra area. So we have Billy Bishop Airport that could service, give routes to these carriers and small aircrafts.
So 132 is a waterfront port, as you are well aware, so it's a big concern to us what happens with the island airport. The island is zoned parkland. There was a tripartite agreement years ago. It was a big compromise to allow the airport on parkland at all. It works well the way it is now. I am not a believer of sole sourcing, so I would never allow one airline company to expand that airport. So right now Porter wants in, and they are not, it's a $300 million infrastructure upgrade that I cannot, in good conscience, slap on the back of taxpayers for one business owner. WestJet and Air Canada are chomping at the bit to get in as well. Porter can get their jets, they just need to fly them on a Lester B. Pearson.
First arose, it was a number of years ago when Mel Lassman was the mayor, and I, along with Jack Lincoln and Olivia Chow, all opposed that this be turned into an airport. Because what we see today is exactly what would happen. Once they get in there, of course they want an expansion. And we should, as a beach community, be getting ready to fight again to preserve our waterfront. This is a big issue about what it's doing to the waterfront, to our environment, to the cultural hub that is there in that locale, and to all of those that live even closer than we do to the airport. And they have a lot of money and a lot of support on council. You need somebody like me there to fight to make sure it doesn't get a further expansion.
I don't think we want an airport on our waterfront either. We have one airport, Lester B. Pearson. In a very short time, we'll have a train train to it. We shouldn't be paying more than just TTC fare to get to it. Every other major city in the world, Vancouver even, you can just take, with one transit pass, you can get downtown pretty quickly. We should be able to do that too. But people are going to book into Toronto and not realize that it's going to take them over an hour to get from Porter to Lester B. Pearson. It's just dumb. I think we should slowly wrap up Billy Bishop and gradually move it back, the operations back. Much as I love the view myself, I think we can do better things with our waterfront.
I think the waterfront airport expansion is it's a hot topic. It's a big topic that's like many other ones, like the casino that we had to talk about. And I think that we have a community that it's the council's job to find out all the facts, find out a couple of variable options. We've got 3 options presented to everybody. Say, here's what Jet's decibel level is going to be. Here's the environmental impact. Here's the cost impact to the city of Toronto. Let's find out these facts, present them in options, and then it's the council's job to go out and find out what everybody in their board thinks. Find out what the majority thinks. And again, as Eric had said, not a vote the minority. I think we need to go ahead. I live right by the flight path, so I understand it can be noisy, but if that's what the majority wants, that's what the majority should get.
Well, in July, I think it was, there's a low-flying airplane. So I filed a complaint with Billy Bishop Airport. They emailed me back. I said, sorry, we can't do anything. Where you live is more than 6 kilometers from the end of the railway. It's not our job to tell airplanes not to fly over your area. Go to the federal government and talk to them. They gave me whatever it was. So the airport, those guys, they don't control it. They'll just pass the buck. But we don't need to expand that airport. The long-term plans are for an airport in Pickering. We've got the rail line going out to Pearson. So there needs to be a plan. If there are no other airports being built, then maybe there might possibly be a justification. But without a long-term plan, it makes no sense to be expanding that airport when we're going to have all these airports in the area. And I want to take issue with Councillor McMahon here. She talks about sole sourcing. She talks about sole sourcing. They get slots. Porter doesn't want to go into Pearson because they don't have the slots. Other airlines do have slots at Island Airport. It's just that they're not the slots. And that's the way it is. They got control of it, but they can't get in the other one. So don't talk about things you don't know.
I'm trying to behave myself. I'm making up for it. In the house of God, I'm the God candidate. I can't swear here. I have a problem with stopping Billy Bishop. I have no problems with the Billy Bishop Airport at all. My wife's from Cape Breton, and she's Irish, Scottish, and her family come out to visit, and we pick them up down there. It's really convenient, and I think it's environmentally friendly instead of getting caught in traffic for hours going up to the airport. I have no problem with it at all. But it's a development issue, because if you have a weak group of councillors and the developers take advantage of them, they're going to get a great deal. And I think the airport, you should say, fine, we can expand, but you got to pay through the teeth for it. Okay? These are the rules. If the airplanes fly at this time over here, you're going to pay a fine. $1,000 every time one of your airplanes flies over there. If you have a tough councillor, we can make a crap load of money out of Billy Bishop Airport. Okay?
Well, I'm against that for sure, because I'm not having planes flying over my house. They're loud. No matter what the airline says, they're going to be loud. And no one's looking at the birds. Go to YouTube, bird strike. I'm not getting on the plane. It's not going to happen. Send them up to Pearson.
First of all, I agree with David Crombie that the reason we don't want an expansion at the Island Airport unless major infrastructure improvements are done are the negative impacts it's already having on the local community. You go to the local elementary school that's on the north side of Queens Quay near Bathurst. They have a lot of problems with safety of the students even getting in and out of that school with the sheer amount of traffic going down Bathurst Street. And the issue of the Island Airport isn't so much noise because the new Bombardier ditch is relatively quiet. it's the congestion and all the other aspects that go around the island airport. I mean, I've flown out of the island airport, and I'm sure a lot of people beach have, it's convenient, but should we allow that to keep growing to the point that it has such a negative impact? Toronto is supposed to be a city of neighborhoods, and we have to stand up for that neighborhood that's being assaulted now by community impacts unless we fix the infrastructure issues. And we also have to look at other airports and the fact we do have the rail link coming to Pearson. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We are going to do one more on transportation. This question is, what would you like to see happen to the section of the Gardiner Expressway east of Jarvis? James, I'm going to start with you. You want a microphone, do you? You'll go next, right?
It's not, I don't find that a very interesting topic. I really don't care what you do with it. I'm being honest. I really don't care. Whatever your fetish is, you want it to stay, you want it to go. I don't really think it makes any major difference. So I'm going to say do nothing, because why waste our time spending money, taking the thing down? Just leave it alone. I think we should spend that money on proper infrastructure. I mean, there's parts of it underneath that are crumbling a little bit. We should, fix them so that they don't, falling pieces don't kill people. But other than that, I really think this is an extremely boring topic. No, really. I'm going to tell you why. The mainstream media picks topics that, I don't think most people really are that interested in this topic. And I think the mainstream media has made it a hot topic when it really shouldn't be. Thank you.
Well, in this sport, they're dependent on the Gardiner if you want to get anywhere, and particularly if you want to get to the other side of the core. But even to go up the parkway is a hassle. If you tear down the Gardiner, what's going to replace it? Well, the study said, well, we're an 8-lane wide massive road, and that'll cover it. There's 100,000 cars a day, and the study that was done said, oh, there's only a couple thousand cars an hour at the peak. It's not that big. 100,000 is a huge, huge number of cars. So I wouldn't tear it down. You also have the Unilever site, which has been bought by First Gulf, so they want to do something different. And I'm concerned that actually we're going to be spending money basically to benefit one private developer who's now bought this and calling it a new Canary Wharf and all that. And I know a little bit about urban development and planning, and frankly I think it's a disaster if we tear down the Gardiner Expressway without having the downtown relief line and other transit in place first, which is what the studies assume. They assume you're going to have all that transit so we can tear it down without any problem, and they're basically, misleading us, I think. Thank you.
Gardiner is another one like the Island Airport. I mean, if people are so concerned about it, then yeah, I'll listen to what the community has to say about it. But I think that leveling it off on the east end, it's worked out before, we can do it again. It's adding the 8 lanes is fine to me in my mind. I think that developing the Unilever site would be good for the city. I think instead of residential buildings, though, we should be looking at building offices. We should encourage, maybe cut the land transfer tax if you're going to build office buildings out there. Maybe Ward 32 could be traveling less distance into work. We don't need as many people going in, taking the Gardiner. We really need this mixed-use community, everybody. There's lots of office buildings going on downtown. We need that brought out closer to our neighborhood. We need to really integrate better. And the Gardiner going west instead, I mean, it's pretty thorough.
Back in the 60s, they said, a fast way to get through Manhattan. And they were going to tear down Greenwich Village for a freeway. So Jane Jacobs was involved in that fight, and you cannot drive through Manhattan quickly, but you do still have Greenwich Village. And then she came to Toronto, and they thought, a fast way to get through Toronto, and they were going to tear down the Annex and a whole bunch of other neighborhoods. And now you cannot get through Toronto really fast, but we've got Little Italy and the Annex. So this is the flip side of that. If we were to tear down the Gardiner and not replace it with a multi-lane highway, but with a series of streets and neighborhoods, what might we have?
suggestions will be before us. So let's do an informed and measured decision this time on what we should be doing with this piece of the Gardner Expressway. We did take down one piece, which was the part when people in this room were involved in Stop the Scarborough Expressway, and it looks fabulous. And I'm very proud to have been a part of that, with all the greening that took place. But I think we should wait until the fall when the environmental assessment is available.
Congestion is the number one issue in our city right now. When you have a worse commute than LA, it's a problem. So as much as we want to beautify our waterfront, which I do, and most of us do, we can't rip down the Gardner, which is our lifeline downtown, without a plan. We want to beautify our waterfront, but we need to keep the city moving. So we'll have to check the environmental assessment next year, but I cannot cut off Ward 32 from downtown without a proper plan.
Just most of the candidates' opinion, so I'm also in favor of, Gardner Expressway repairs and maintenance. If the city budget, the city council approves additional budget for the repairs and maintenance of this Gardner Expressway, then I would vote for that, considering the smooth flow in our area, and also the health and safety, safeguard also the residents.
The City of Toronto is drowning in studies. $7.6 million spent on this Gardner study exploring 4 options, 3 of which are nonsense. The Gardner must be a highway. I really wish the study had explored keeping it, putting the Gardner on the ground, or burying it, but they didn't. So of the 4 options, of course, keep the Gardner the way it is.
First of all, unlike most people here, I know a lot about the Gardner because 10 years ago I sat on the Gardner Expressway dismantling committee when we took down the Gardner east of the DDP. And I remember that project at the time was very controversial. The local councillors at the time, which was Sandra Buss and Tom Jacket, they pointed in favor of it. And I made sure that passed because 2 weeks before the final vote at council, I invited some councillors to a nice $100 lunch and changed their vote, and it passed by 1 vote. Look at the development we had at Leslie Lakeshore, look at the new bike path. But I think that looking at taking the Gardner down, from Jarvis to the Don Valley, that's a whole different kettle of fish. You clearly have to really study it, and then that's going to be a huge cost. Who's going to pay for it? And if it's really going to be the benefit of one private developer, well, they should bear the cost of that. We have to be careful, because clearly you can't just take it down willy-nilly and then basically have real problems in how the people in Ward 32 get to downtown Toronto. Thank you.
I think the decision's already been made by Senator Busson and Mary Margaret that the Gardner's staying up. It's costing us $500 million to keep it up. We're going to spend even more down the road. We should have went with the burial, and we could have had nice parks down there, could put condos up, could have done all kinds of things. And it's a major barrier from the south to the north in the city. With all the condo developments south of the tracks and north. That's Gardner's buried. It's got to be buried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. James didn't like my last question. We'll try a different question. We'll try a totally different tack, though. This question is, what unique skills do you have that you would use to enrich Ward 32? Wide open. Mary Margaret, I'm starting with you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm a people person. I love people. It shows because I like to spend most of my time. I'm never at home. I'm always out with people in my residence. I'm an honest person. I'm a hard worker. I'm working 12 to 15-hour days. I don't stop. I have 2 speeds, full throttle, and passed out soundlessly. I give 200% to anything I do, whether I'm paid or not. I'm passionate about my residents, my community, and my city, and I think that shows in the last 4 years. Thank you.
Well, this is a community that I grew up in. My parents were actually married in this actual church. And it means a lot to me about what happens here. And over the years, I've achieved so many things working with residents here of a broad range, whether it was at the back, there are people here that worked on shutting down the Ashbridges Bay incinerator. That takes a lot of work. Our works department didn't want to do it. And perhaps some of the residents didn't, but it was working together, we made that happen, and this community is better for it. Over the years, I managed to move up until I was both the deputy mayor and the speaker of council, which meant that I had to be able to work with members of council to get things done. And you've got some amazing infrastructure here, like the beaches, library, the skateboard park, the beautiful bridge in Glen Stewart Ravine. All those things happen because you're able to work with people.
I think that the qualities I will bring are that I'm willing to take a stand publicly, whether it's popular or not, whether it will win me friends or not. I'm willing to be forthright about why I'm taking that stand, but to listen to that feedback. Your counselor is one of your peers, no better or worse than you are. But he or she has an opportunity that most of us never will. And so what is the person going to be doing over the next 4 years? Are they going to be building bridges to nowhere? Or are they going to be working with people to achieve something of substance? Are you going to love everything that they do? Probably not. But will they be doing something of substance? And will they tell you why they're doing it? Will they take your feedback? And will they keep you informed from before decisions get made, during the decision-making process, and through to the end?
Unique skills? I'm not sure about that, but one skill I know I have that I think is lacking is customer service. I can listen to you. I can find out what you need, not just the vocal ones, but I think more importantly, the ones that aren't vocal. Get out there, find out what you're looking for, find out what you want in the community, find out, let you be informed about what's going on in the community as well. Give you the information, the resources, and the tools. I won't leave you high and dry. You send me a question that's province or federal, I will get that answer for you. I will find your answer. Come to me, and I will solve your problems. Thank you.
Okay. Well, there's different categories here. The first, there's character, and then there's actual hard skill. In terms of character, passion. I bring a lot of passion, and if I'm a bit too intense, it's because I'm passionate at times. There's also hard work, dedication, because I've spent hundreds of hours doing volunteer work on planning the last few years. No pay, nothing like that. Third thing is, a lot of the candidates, when they filled out the Toronto Taxpayers Coalition, said there are two main issues. One is planning, the other is transportation. The only person on council right now with a degree in architecture is Peter Goshen, actually left when in the provincial election he won, and he's now sitting in Queen's Park. I have a degree in architecture. How many people on council have designed a building? How many people can read plannings? How many people can actually say when something's being built, I know why that's wrong and I can do better? I worked on behalf of the GBNA behind the scenes to design, with my architect Michael Spaziani, to come up with a better building than the one that the OMB approved. I don't think anybody on council would have that ability to go and say to the developer, hey, don't do it that way, do it this way, and you won't lose any density and you'll have a better building.
Thank you. I was born here 51 years ago. I've been living in this area for 11 years in Ward 32. Come from a poor Greek family. The name was Seraphopoulos. My dad saw Sears on the back of a truck in the 70s and changed our name. It's a true story. Back in the late 70s, they were shutting down schools. I don't know if people remember that because of the baby boomers and there was a demographic thing. They were shutting down schools, and he did not want our schools shut down. And this was during a trustee meeting, and my dad walked up to the trustee, who was going to vote to shut the school down, said something to him, and came back, and he voted to keep the school open. And later, I asked my dad, I said, what did you say to the trustee? He said, son, I told him that if he voted to shut the school down, I'd show up at his house with a shotgun and blow his head off. I love my dad. I've never forgotten the story. And I've entered politics for him. Thank you.
Well, I want to be involved in that, listen to people's problems and solve them. And I want to hear your issues if you vote for me October 27th and solve the problems of Toronto. That's why I'm here. Stories are great, but the issues are important. Thank you.
I guess some of my qualities are I'm skillful, I'm tenacious, and I'll give you one real world example. About 3 years ago, the Committee of Adjustments approved a 3-story house on Blantyre with a deck of 500 square feet on the roof of the 3rd floor. It totally destroyed the privacy of all the residents around it. Anyway, the residents went to an OB lawyer and said, guys, I'll charge you $10,000, don't think we'll win. They then came to me and said, Al, what can you do as president of the East Beach Community? So I said, guys, I'm going to represent you at the OB, we're going to win. Everybody said I couldn't do that. We worked around my kitchen table for about 25 hours. When I walked into that hearing, I was going up against a lawyer with 20 years OB experience and a planner with almost the same. They probably thought, it's just the president of the community association, this will be a case. I walked out 2 days later from that hearing having won. What president in this city of a community association could do that? That says something about me. When I needed parking changed on Queen Street east of Silver Birch because I wanted the hours changed at 6 o'clock, that took me 5 years with the Toronto Parking Authority, but I got it done. Thank you.
So, as I say, I'm a small business of one. I'm customer service, operations, accounting, payroll, admin, and everyday labor. I'm a one-man show. I'm in a different city every day, so I know what works, and the City of Toronto Council is not managing our infrastructure. I'm the only one on stage offering smart value for money solutions, and I have policy-based ideas. Thank you.
My unique talent is in my educational background. Since I am an accountant, I have an analytical mind. So with the Toronto City Council, I can help them and as well too. In terms of analyzing projects, since I am a number person, I can analyze whether you are capable of borrowing loans, since I have this background in banking. So there's 5 C's of credit and other criteria. My other unique talent is also in media, since I'm connected with social media accounts. I have LinkedIn network of over 14 million. I'm connected with Facebook friends. I have several group of friends, not only in Canada, but in other countries as well, since with this, in this way, in this manner, I can help the elections by promoting the government for us to have a peaceful and orderly election.
All right, thank you. We're going to go from a wide open question to a more specific question, and this one specifically about the beach. With the granting of the blue flag status to the beaches, the last several years we've seen a huge increase in citizen use of the public beach and surrounding park area. This has made the beach a more vibrant and visited corner of Toronto. As councillor, what investments into this destination location are you going to champion to make it grow, prosper, and coexist with the adjacent communities? Brian, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, well. I think the one thing is when I've looked at the boardwalk the last few years, it's in very sad shape. I don't think we're doing enough to maintain the area as it is right now. People walk down it. I'm rather disturbed that we haven't been doing the maintenance there. The boathouse was finally, after several years, or near the lighthouse station, not the one at the other end, was finally repaired. And for years it looked terrible because the roof was peeling, and I'm sure it meant things were falling into disarray. A lot of it is just to make sure that you pay for the infrastructure you have, that you're investing in maintaining it and keeping it rolling over. The real problem we have with the thing parks than we do.
Well, number one priority is to keep the waterfront accessible and usable, something that Blue Flag says. I think we need to continue sustainable infrastructure building. By that, it would be things like bioswales, I'll go into the details, but basically filtering stormwater running down the roads in a natural manner, and other things like the Sherburne Common Waterfront. We need to incorporate that all throughout the city so that we have clean waterfronts. The actual boardwalk itself needs to be maintained. All the buildings along it need to be maintained, and we need to incorporate rental features. It's nice to go down there, but if you can't do anything down there, just watch everybody else fly their kite and play on their water toys, then it's no good for you. So I'd like to see some rental services available there, maybe a city-owned building that pop-up shops could rent over the seasons. Thank you.
I think we need more than one place to eat on the beach. Both our current councillor and our previous councillor have said that the contract is till 2028 and cannot be broken. Just about every other agreement the city has entered into has been broken. Let's find out what the figure is, and imagine a beach where you have more than one place to eat. It would help local businesses, they could set up stands, we could do some of the things that Sean imagines. Let's find out the figures.
Well, the beach is our part of our community, and I was very active in the Blue Flag initiative. But there's a lot of work that I was involved in that has just seemingly not continued. And that's over closer to the Lions Club, where there's very dirty water, and we have children there that are learning how to row and paddle. And there was a major initiative there, along with an extension of a bridge to the Leslie Street spit. All of that work has just been put on the back burner. We do have one of the most wonderful places in the city in which we live, but there are ways of expanding uses, and it needs to come back. We need to be putting the money there. And as a parent who is always active in getting other kids going with canoeing or whatever, we need to have more stations along the beach where anybody can come and learn how to sail and enjoy. And it shouldn't be that you have a lot of money.
Well, I'm still cleaning up the mess at the Boardwalk Cafe, but I'll get into that later. So we've done, in my term, we have revitalized the Moody Pavilion. There's a new roof on it. There's a new job on it. We've actually put recycled rubberized tires, flooring in it to help with exercise and boot camps and yoga that goes on down there. We have put in an accessible walkway to the beach, across the sand, all the way to the water. If you haven't seen it, go out there. It's fantastic. The Donald Summerville Pool. Making our areas more accessible. We've sunk a lot of money in Donald Summerville Pool. You haven't seen it all. It's all been underneath of the pipes and infrastructure. But we have revitalized the inside as well. We are now working on this fall with Woodbine Lake Station. We'll have a massive overhaul. We'll have showers on the outside, more washing inside, and it will be fully accessible. Thank you.
The two beaches here in Port include, that's Q Beach and the Ashbridge Beach area, seems to be impressive to other tourists. But if they come here, it wouldn't be very nice. And also, these two beaches has not yet attained the blue seal from the Ministry of Tourism, considering the color of the water. And although the City Hall has promoted it online, and also city parks have maintained these projects well by collecting garbages and trash around the beach. So if elected as councilor in the Toronto City Council by you, my proposal then is to promote these two beaches outside through the help of the Ministry of Tourism and invite businesses, foreign investors, so that they could construct hotels and also help the improvement and beautification of these two beaches. Thank you.
The old and unsightly maps on the beach should be replaced with maps containing the public information as well as a business listing, like a mall directory. Visitors to the beach may not realize how close they are to our local shops and food and entertainment. I also will complete the renovations required for Kew Gardeners to keep it open, something that man doesn't see as a priority. I want to open it as a consignment cafe where visitors can sit on furniture, enjoy beverages, and light fare, all provided by and credited to local businesses. Residents would be encouraged to rent this space from the city for private or public functions. I also want to open the R.C. Harris water treatment plant during Pan Am and any other tourist-heavy seasons. This is a beautiful and educational building that should draw tourists through our community. Thank you.
First of all, if we want to increase the uses in the beach, we have to deal with one of the barrier problems where these people are parked. One of the things I would do, the Toronto Portlands Authority owns land. For example, where Cirque du Soleil currently has their parking lot down by Cherry Street, that land is owned by the City of Toronto through the Toronto Portlands Company. So I look at creating outlying parking lots where people can park and we shuttle them in by bus to the main part of the beach, so that we don't get everybody trying to drive a car here because we know we don't have the parking. Also, when we have special events like the Jazz Festival, why aren't we saying Toledo, those cars can park at the parking lots at Shoppers World, other outlying parking lots, shuttle them in. I've been to the Waterfront Festival in Oakville. That's what they do in Oakville. They don't say everybody bring your car to the waterfront in Oakville. They let them park on the outlying parking lots and they shuttle them in by bus. And I think those are some of the things we need to do, and I would be happy to tell you more afterwards.
Well, we need to recycle use recycled plastic because it's falling apart. And we do need tourist designated area down on Queen Street, or even in the area near the beach, but tourists know this is an area to come. We have to work through the products, designate as a tourist area. We need more tourists. Thank you.
There is a plan to build a path through Kew Gardens. This path is supposed to draw people up from the beach, supposed to go up the path and shop on Queen Street and save all our shops. Who is at the beach? Poor immigrant families like the one I came from, roasting their kebabs because it's free. We do not want to shop at the posh shops on the beach. If you build this path through Kew Gardens, what's going to happen? People walking on Queen Street are going to say, hey, there's a path. They're going to walk down to the beach, and they're going to spend money at the boardwalk bistro that you guys all loathe.
Yeah.
So I'm imploring you not to build that path. Please, 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 thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take you from the beach, and I'm going to send you a little north. This question came in via Twitter. What would you do about the empty storefronts on Gerrard Street East? And I'm going to take that one step further, and also on Danforth. What would you do about the empty storefronts that are along Gerrard Street East and along Danforth? Maria, I can start with you.
As far as I'm concerned, there are no empty storefronts here in Ward 32. But what we have here are construction projects which is ongoing. But yeah, construction projects which is owned by developers and realtors. So these storefronts are owned and they are not empty. There are owners who are just waiting for a budget for the money to construct this. And some of them are also for sale. So I I don't consider them as empty storefronts.
So first of all, property owners get a tax break on the commercial taxes for having an empty storefront. So there's an incentive to keep it empty, which is wrong. So we were just voted on that at council to explore that, phasing that out. It definitely needs to be stopped as soon as we can. That's one, that's the stick. The carrot is what my former residents association I was involved with, DECA, Danforth Community Association, is leading the city in the charge of pop-up shop initiatives. I was just downtown at U of T this morning talking to Paul Bedford's class, former chief planner for the city of Toronto. He's studying the Danforth with his class. They love the pop-up shop idea. So it's filling empty storefronts with artisans and entrepreneurs. That's been so successful on the Danny that we've had 8 new shops come in. We're worried about Queen Street as well as empty storefronts. So we need to spread that pop-up shop model all over our board, all over the city, and that's what I like to do. Thanks.
Well, I agree with most of the initiatives that have been addressed here. The pop-ups, changing how the tax base works, because it does encourage owners not to open the storefront because it reverts to a residential tax level. But, you know, I've been really disheartened to see what has been happening on Queen and Gerrard. We had some very vital work being done through our BIAs. I was in the Gerrard East recently, where I have a bank account and others, and to find that one of the banks is closing because it really isn't thriving anymore. And it's a dramatic change. And one of the things that needs to happen is to have those BIAs working and getting more funding from the city, because only so many get monies each and every budget year. And we need to be revitalizing these areas and working more directly with the business owners to shore them up once again.
I agree with taking away the tax breaks, and I think we need to go further. I think we need to give tax breaks to landlords that are willing to take a chance on a new business. We need to go further with pop-up shops, because we need businesses that are going to make it in the long run, that are going to put down roots and hire other people. So we need permanent businesses as well as the pop-up shops. We don't have to stick to the mom and pop store model either. We can think about using other kinds of endeavors. We have a lot of unemployed brains, both young and old, in this city, and we can use some of those for other types of services. So let's think of being more innovative and letting our people be more innovative. Give them a place to be innovative, and who knows what we'll come up with.
Yeah, these tax breaks sound very counterproductive, but what we need to do, I think, is a lot of the money is leaving the community. We're leaving to go to jobs, go to other places, and not stay here anymore. We need offices, we need employment, sustainable employment, not just retail employment. We need offices on Danforth and Main. I see huge opportunity, one of the last large lots of land in our community where we could create office towers. Towers might sound bad, I realize that, but office buildings where we could work. You could actually make a decent living and shorter commutes. Your transit time's less. You have time to go pick up kids from local daycare. It's just creating a whole mixed-use community. I know I've been hitting that home a lot, but I think that this is what's really driving our community. This is what's going to make us better. This is what's going to make us sustainable. Thank you.
Well, just pressing a button to vote to tell the province to change the tax break on vacant space isn't going to do it. That's provincial. Again, my background, I have a real estate license. I've worked in real estate and office leasing and consultants reports. It's economic development, and that's the kind of experience I bring to the job. Gerrard and Danforth are quite different. Just building a few condos isn't going to solve it. And we know that from where the racetrack is, those new condos there have almost about 50% vacancy. The vacancy in the new condos is worse than in the surrounding area. And so on the Danforth, just building condos for people who are going to commute downtown and not shop in that area is not going to do it. You need to have a targeted plan to how to bring amenities so that people want to come to the Danforth like they want to go to the Danforth in Greektown. There's an identity, you work with the BIA and try and get things done so that there's a reason for people to go there. And I'd like to work with the BIA and the community, and again, bringing my experience to this, I think it's an economic development issue. It's not an issue of bringing in a few people and letting condos get built, and that will solve it. Thank you.
Most tenants have triple net leases, which means they pay for property tax, commercial tenants. We need to bring property taxes down, and one way to do that is to start taxing churches. I know. I did not spontaneously combust. God doesn't mind us taxing churches. I'm suggesting that we have a shadow property tax for churches of 1/10 the regular property tax. So if this church would normally pay $30,000 a year in commercial property tax, it would pay $3 grand a year. And if there's 300 parishioners, each one would chip in $10 a year, they pay the tax. The largest property owner in Ontario is the Catholic Church. And I want them to pay tax. I want the Canadian Cancer Society to pay tax. I want Children's Aid to pay tax. I want all of them to pay tax. Thank you.
Well, I'll speak to the owners of the properties to reduce the rents short term and get tenants into their stores. We'll do a survey in the neighborhoods to find out what services you want and need in the area, and stop tax breaks for empty stores. Should get tax breaks when they have tenants. And I'll encourage citizens to shop locally like I do. Thank you.
I certainly agree with the idea about pop-ups and encouraging things. One thing I think we need to do is look at business incubators. We also need to improve the quality of the people working in our BAs. I had experience working with the Danforth Village BA, to a lesser extent the Beach BA, and one of the problems we have is they don't have people with good business skills. I hold a business degree from Concordia. I graduated in the top 5% of my class, and I look at the quality of some of the people working BAs, and they don't also understand from a marketing perspective, you have to spend money to make money to bring an area up. The other thing I think we need to do is maybe citizens as a group, we create a nonprofit corporation, we buy some of these properties, and we take an active hand into encouraging getting in businesses we want and making it affordable for those startup businesses. Thank you.
The wild card has been thrown. Excellent. Thank you, Mary Margaret.
So I'm going to use the wild card not to defend myself, but to defend the BIA members. I find that highly offensive, Mr. Burke. We have 6 business associations, 5 BIAs, and 1 business community association in our ward. They're made up of volunteers. No one is being paid. We know how hard it is to get volunteers. They work tirelessly for their community on shop local campaigns, on beautification programs. I take serious umbrage with your comments.
I'll give you a real-world example I just dealt with. On the Danforth, as you know, we've had construction between Main Street and Victoria Park, and we've had some problems. We had the power knocked off in August because the subcontractor put a torpedo into an underground hydro vault. I went to the BIA and said, guys, you should encourage your members to file claims because some restaurants had to throw out food. I even provided them a sample letter, and they didn't want to do anything. Well, if the BIA doesn't stand up for their members and an issue with a claim against the city of Toronto because of construction, what does that tell me? Now, I know a lot of these guys are volunteers, but I mean, I used to be on the board of a housing co-op. You still want to have people who know how to do the job. Right, I remember when I got on the board at Fieldstone Co-op, I had to go down to CRA and explain why they should charge Fieldstone Co-op for tax evasion because the person on the board who's responsible for ensuring taxes were paid didn't do that. So I'm not criticizing Pete personally, but you want to have people who have the skill set to make those BAs work better. I understand they're volunteers, but if the people,
They're also elected.
they're elected by the merchants, that's right. The people who pay. But I can give you examples, you know, on the Danforth, where Harold Robbins was trying to do good stuff and he gave up because he didn't get the support of the BIA. Thank you.
So, as I say, we should push development. We should push development up to Maine and Danforth, where there's lots of space and we have both GO and TTC stations. Council should be providing a variety of development, including office space, where our residents can work, as well as those who come in from Markham and Scarborough, who can spend the day working in our community rather than commuting on our overcapacity downtown transit lines. Or line. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go back to transportation one more time before we're done here. This question came from the audience here today. Will you commit to working for 200 kilometers of protected bike lanes? Is the question. Might come from over here.
Yes. In my youth, I lived in Paris, France, and Vancouver. They were both places that where nobody cycled. In recent years I've been there, everybody cycled. I felt much safer cycling down the slopes of Paris. You know, the culture there of drivers is just to give way to bikes than I have in Toronto, where I've been biking for the last 30 years, and I'm lucky I'm still alive. And I think we can make it a decision to put in bike lanes. They're not that expensive. It's wonderfully helpful. If they can do it in Vancouver and Paris, we can do it here. And we need to change the culture of bikes versus cars. We're all people, we're moving from A to B. It's not a battle, there's room for everybody.
I absolutely support bike lanes. I got lucky recently, I even went over on Woodbine. It's a different thing to talk about. I realize it keeps traffic. Even putting in the lane, we're talking about what are we going to do, where are we going to find space. But these are the hard decisions that we need to make. We need to make them as a community, informed together. We need to decide, take our local community. We have nowhere going north-south here. You do ride on the traffic. You ride on it. You can't go underneath the highway or underneath the railroad or above it unless you take one of the major roads. So how about Woodbine and Coxville? We have a one-way at least. You can go up or down on one of the streets, vice versa. Kingston Road needs a way. That could be our east-west. It's not ideal. I realize that people don't want to lose the traffic spot, but these are the hard decisions we need to make.
I'd like to say that absolutely I support bike lanes. But I get a little nervous when people start tossing around a specific number like 200. Now I have an MBA, and MBAs are sort of known for managing by numbers and focusing on the numbers. But I know in other areas that when you start putting a number and a target on something, you often end up doing really stupid things. Well, last election, there was an issue in Scarborough. There's a bike lane on Pharmacy, and it's been taken away because it didn't make any sense. So we're going to build more bike lanes and then say, we made a mistake anyway. We did that on Jarvis Street. There's a bike lane, it was in the wrong place, and they moved it to Sherbourne where it makes sense. So this is where I'm going to get nervous, is okay, here's a number, we're going to go to it. Another example is trees, and we haven't talked much about trees. There's a city quota for trees of 94,000 a year. I go along and I see trees being built under hydro lines, trees being built where they shouldn't be, filling up the parks with trees where you should have open space. So I commit to bike lanes, but I'm not going to commit to any specific number because you do it for quality, not quantity.
When I was a kid, I grew up in Dufferin and Lawrence. I used to ride my bicycle everywhere. I'm against bike lanes. I'll tell you why. Because when I was a kid, we had Elmer the safety elephant. Does everyone remember Elmer the safety elephant? Elmer the safety elephant told us how to ride our bicycle to avoid dying on the road. Nobody got hit by cars because we all knew Elmer's safety rules.
2014.
I understand, The problem is Marxism. We are no longer responsible for our actions. We're all victims. We all want the nanny state. We need a special lane to stay in because we're too spazzy on the road. None of my friends ever got hit by a car. I only stopped riding the bike because I found out you can get impotent from bicycles. You see, they're come on, we just need common sense. We don't need any more bicycle lanes. Thank you.
We have to decide where they're going to go. We have to draw a map and find out where they're going to go. That's the most important thing. You can't just put bike lanes on one street, it stops, and it goes to another street, and it goes nowhere. We need infrastructure. We need somebody to decide where the bike lanes are going to go, and then we'll build them.
First of all, I support bike lanes, and I used to be a member of the Toronto City Cycling Committee when Jack Leahy was chair of said committee. But also, I would agree with people, sometimes we put bike lanes where they're not appropriate, or where they, for example, Eastern Avenue, we have a bike lane to nowhere. It goes about 6 blocks and stops. And then we even have a sign at the end of Eastern suggesting cyclists don't try and take the ramps over the Gardner because it's not very safe. So I agree, bike lanes make sense. There are areas where they're suitable. And I think we have to look at master plan and do commit to that 200 kilometers. I think that is a good target for the city. And also look at making it so that we try and tie in some of those bike lanes to make it easier for kids to commute to school. Because we have a problem with obesity of our kids because they're not active enough. And we shouldn't be driving them to school. We should encourage walking.
I support the creative and smart implementation of bike lanes. Councillor McMahon, though she pays lip service to bike lanes, she has to her credit, I believe, 400 meters of bike lanes in our ward, extending a dead end from Kingston Road to Woodbine. I have 20 kilometers of bike lanes in my platform. I want to put bike lanes on Gerrard Street, east of Coxwell, to allow safe passage through our community. This and King Queen as one ways is a creative way to put 20 kilometers of bike lanes into our ward. Thank you.